Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
Hello and welcome to My Hometown. My name is Bill Horan and I'm here with my co-host Sarah Albertson. And today we're shining the spotlight on a young lady who has been recognized for representing her community, one that she helps constantly in an extraordinary way.
It's truly amazing what our guest is doing for the epilepsy community, and together we will learn all about it over the next half hour. Bill?
Let's do it. Our guest today is Tara Silberg, a junior at the University of Delaware, who is originally from Jericho right here in Nassau County. She's the recipient of a special scholarship in a nationwide epilepsy community for her constant work in the nonprofit field. Tara is the president of the Student Awareness for Epilepsy Club, and she's working to teach others about the condition and how they can help make it an impact today. Tara, welcome to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Thank you.
Tara, first tell us about epilepsy and how long you've had it.
Yeah, so epilepsy is a disorder that there are actually every 1 in 6 people in the United States that they are affected by it, which is kind of a large number if you ask me. And I have been affected by it since 2015. When I was 16 years old, I was diagnosed in the fall of my junior year when I was driving to school with my mom one day. And it was kind of a surprise, but also something that I'd been waiting to figure out because I had been having seizures for a very long time, but I did not know that they were seizures.
Now, when you say a seizure, for us, and you and I had the pleasure of talking before the show, but tell our audience what you mean by a seizure and how we would see an epilepsy seizure.
Yeah, so the type of seizure that I have, and there are actually 30 different kinds of epilepsy or types of seizures that someone could have, is something called a complex partial seizure, and it is found in the left temporal lobe, which is the communication system. So when I have a seizure, unless you're talking to me, you would never know that I'm having it because it just looks like I'm daydreaming. Yeah, so it could be good and bad if you want to be talking to me, but basically my communication system shuts down, therefore I don't know what you're saying, and if I started talking, it would probably sound like an alien's language. I try to not talk when I have a seizure.
I thought I was just boring people up when they did that. Now, is that a 5-second shutdown or 3 minutes or an hour?
Yeah, so it's about 30 seconds to a minute while I'm having a seizure, but afterwards I just become exhausted. Yeah.
So it's very tiring even though it's a short period of time.
It's very tiring, yes, even though there's nothing going on besides in my brain.
Now, you're at the University of Delaware right now as a student. Did they always have a Student Awareness for Epilepsy Club, or did you begin it?
Yeah, so they have always had a Student Awareness for Epilepsy Club. However, when I went my freshman year, and I had actually received a scholarship in my senior year of high school to start this club, turned out that they had one. And at the student organization fair, I went to the table and they didn't even have a paper and pen to sign up for this club. There were 3 girls. They were very nice. So at that moment, I kind of decided, okay, they were juniors at the time. Once they leave, I'm taking over this club and I'm starting everything over. I'm, we're going to get it bigger and better, and that's kind of what we're doing now.
We have a natural leader here. See that? She's taking over, and all it took was pencils and paper. That's all, right? I'm sure you're the president and taking over, and you supply the pencils and the papers.
How did you feel when you were diagnosed in high school?
When I was diagnosed, I wasn't exactly sure how to respond. It took a little while for me to fully accept it because, as people may or may not know, seizures aren't always spasms and what you see on TV, because I felt as if, okay, well, I don't have what most people know seizures are. Can I still call myself epileptic? I feel like I don't suffer enough, which was a little bit of a tough feeling to really find out, okay, well, you know what, my brain is still doing weird things. I really am suffering in a different way. So some people would respond in a way like, oh, you have epilepsy? That's kind of scary. Maybe I don't want to be friends with you, or maybe I don't want to hang out with you that often. Whereas other people would ask me a million questions. And I didn't know how to answer at first, but then I would be like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm learning more about this. I went into different organizations and different things to learn more, so I would be able to answer those questions.
And you educated us just before the show, just in conversation, what goes on, etc. Now, does someone get epilepsy because they drank too much Diet Coke, or is it hereditary, or is it the chemicals outside, or what causes epilepsy? Do we know?
Sadly, there are many cases of epilepsy that no one has any idea. There are so many different ways it could be passed on through hereditary reasons, through brain trauma, etc. And they don't really know why I have it. Actually, it could be through birth. It could be anything.
Is it one of those things that could you just have it for 3 years, from let's say 17 to 20 or 29 to 30, whatever age group? Or when you have it, does it go on through your life, or does it come and go and nobody knows?
It depends on the case, really, but it could go either way. Someone in my family had it and it went away. However, at this time, they don't know if mine will ever disappear. So it's unknown, but I always like to have some mystery in my life.
Sarah?
How does one become diagnosed? I mean, for you, you said you just you don't talk, you kind of space out. It looks like you're daydreaming. So, I could kind of see that being very hard to diagnose. You know? So how would you say, like, somebody becomes diagnosed?
I don't know exactly, because like I said, it's different in each case. But I know, I believe there's something where if you have more than 2 or 3 seizures, that's when you may be diagnosed with epilepsy. But if it's just one seizure at some point, you won't be diagnosed necessarily. Yeah. So,
Tara, I'm thinking going across the year, does a person typically, and maybe there's no typical answer for this, but would they say you have maybe 2 seizures a year, or 22, 308, and
from person to person, or just me?
Well, we'll start with you, but is there a kind of a number that people have once a month, or are you going to get one at least every 10 days or something?
It depends on the person. For myself personally, and luckily this is, it hasn't changed in over a year and a half. It used to be 1 day a month, but at this point I haven't had any in a very long time.
That's great.
Yeah.
And is there medication that doctors put you on, or do they experiment for the people? Because I guess everybody's different from what you're saying, right?
Yes. So everybody is different, but personally, they tried 3 different medications for me. The first one was something that was really immediate, because the seizures happened while I was driving. So the neurologist that I visited that day during my diagnosis, he said, okay, we're putting you on something called Keppra, and this is going to get rid of them at this moment. However, unfortunately, that was a medication that causes let's see. I would say it was probably causing some sort of depression. I would come home from school every day and my head would fall on the table. I would be so tired and so sad. So I was taken off that pretty fast. And then the next one was just a different type of medication, which I believe was more of, okay, let's try this. And that caused something that could be deadly. So they took me off of that, and the one that I'm on now somehow worked.
And you were telling me before the show, what are the driving regulations? Because as a young person, you want to be on the road, you're in college. Are you allowed to drive? Are there restrictions, etc.?
Yeah, so differs from state to state. In New York, you have to be 12 months seizure-free. So that's really it for this state. I don't know from other states.
So if someone is diagnosed with epilepsy, it's still okay to drive?
Yes, you could drive. I was diagnosed right before I was able to get my license. So that was just unfortunate, but now I can drive.
Do you personally think that the standards New York has for people who have epilepsy is good, or do you think it should be improved on or changed?
I think it definitely could be improved, but luckily some of my peers who are also diagnosed with epilepsy are making changes in the law, in schools, etc. But now that I'm in college, I don't have as much ability to make that change in New York.
You are listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Sarah Albertson, along with Bill Horan, and today we're talking about bringing awareness for epilepsy with Jericho's own Tara Silberg, a junior at the University of Delaware, who has been rewarded for her work teaching others about the condition and how they can make an impact today.
Tara, we obviously are talking to you, and you're speaking about some of the negatives. Are there any positives about having epilepsy?
Yeah. So as, I talk to my family and friends very often, I would say it's a condition that is very controllable on my part, and it's brought some great benefits. I've been able to lobby Congress in D.C. I've made 1 million friends. It's given me a cause to fight for, really.
Now, that's really cool, Sarah. Did you hear what Tara said? She's been already, now you're a college student, and you've been lobbying before Congress, helping to make the law and make people aware of this.
Yeah.
What a great experience. I mean, that in itself is a college education.
Yeah. That's an amazing opportunity at such a young age. Like, I know people who would love that opportunity now that haven't even gotten it at your age, so that's pretty amazing.
Thank you. I agree.
What impression, I'm just wondering, I'm going to deviate a little bit, but to find out, what impression did that make on you, and was there anybody who really impressed you in Congress or is out to help people with this, disease?
I would say, actually, it wasn't so much Congress that impressed me. It was my fellow students at the time, or my friends, that really impressed me with what they're doing to make change. And it kind of gave me the idea, like, oh, wow, I could be doing a lot more to work with this.
You're a change maker. That's a great title to know that you can do something. Yeah. Here you are in Washington. You can be affecting people in New Mexico, California, across the country, and maybe the world even, by changing some of the laws, and then other people take it on and they do it in other locations in other countries. So thank you and congratulations for that. Sarah?
Does your major at the University of Delaware tie into the work that you do with the epilepsy community?
Yeah, definitely. So my major is human services, and I believe that's affected, or I decided partially because of what's gone on with my diagnosis and what I learned I could do. I've always loved helping people, but the idea of working in a nonprofit perhaps really has been impacted by being parts of nonprofits such as the Epilepsy Foundation and FACES at NYU Langone.
Now, Tara, tell us, is there an organization, or would you like to tell our listeners that if they think they might have this disease or something is bothering them, or even if they're just hearing about it and saying, gee, that might apply to me, is there an organization they should know about, or what would help them?
Yeah, so what I became a part of is something called EPIC Long Island, which is not far from here, and they have support groups, which is what my mom got me involved in when I was diagnosed. And I made friends that have honestly lasted me until now and for my whole life, most likely. And that really gave me an idea of, okay, there are people that are going through what I'm going through, and they'll also give me an idea of how I can work with others.
So the group is called Epic Long Island?
Yes.
Is that spelled out, the Long Island part?
Yeah.
And is that their website, and is that where they would be located?
Yes, definitely. If you search online, I don't have the exact website off the top of my
That's
mind.
Okay.
Yes.
But that would be for, and I think that's an important part, that you have a support group, somebody's working with you, etc., and you get to get out there and work with them, and they learn from you, you learn from them, and meet new friends.
Do you have any personal setbacks with being epileptic? Meaning, can you still exercise? Can you still play sports? Is there something that you just can't do because of it?
Not too many setbacks. My doctor or my neurologist told me that I can't do about 2 things. I can't swim in a pool alone, which my parents would say I shouldn't do anyways, and I'm not supposed to shower when there's no one home, but I don't always listen to that. Otherwise, no setbacks.
That's great, though. I mean, if those are the only 2 things you have to, deal with the condition, I mean, you still have an amazing life, and you really can go so far and achieve so much.
No, that's really and I think everybody has some restrictions like that. I know if I'm home alone, there's things I'm not going to do as I get older, because just if I trip or do something incorrectly, I look around, is there anybody there who could assist me? And if my wife is doing something like that, I'll tell her, always make sure I'm nearby. So we all have those, whether it's literally put out there by a doctor or just our common sense that we should or should not do things. Are there parts about epilepsy you'd like people to know about and you want them to be aware of? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so I would say, really, as I mentioned to you guys earlier, there are no bad questions. So if you meet someone that is affected by seizures, ask them, of course, with their permission. Ask them what it's like. Ask them if you don't know anything. It's something that people should really get to know more about, and it's a little bit under the radar, if you ask me, other than typical films and TV shows and what you hear from people.
Is it insulting if we're doing this, of course, as part of a radio show, But if I came up to you and we met socially and I said, Tara, I hear you have epilepsy. Tell me all about it. Would you look at me like, what, are you crazy? I'm not going to talk about that in front of everybody.
As long as it's with good intentions.
Yeah.
It's never insulting. Yeah,
okay, I didn't know if that was because people today, certain things that I didn't realize I read about in the paper, this is an insulting statement or word. Wow, I thought I used that word correctly and never meant it to be insulting. And I'm only learning to educate myself and to pass it on to others.
Yeah,
to help
so
people.
One thing, I guess one caveat is from person to person, some don't really like being called epileptic because they think it puts a certain title on them, which I could understand. I don't mind personally, but I would rather someone ask me questions than make assumptions.
And I'm just thinking, are there people, like, career-wise, do they tell you, like, you shouldn't be a policewoman or shouldn't be a skydiver or a surgeon? Or are there any, I don't want to say restrictions, but maybe cautions?
I think that's a bit of an issue, or I've learned about that, especially in the support group, that there are certain jobs, unfortunately, if you tell them beforehand, they may say, it's not really for you, and they might not acknowledge that it's because of the epilepsy, but that could be a thing. So there's a legal, there's some sort of law that says you don't have to tell some sort of somebody that's employing you. You don't have to tell an employer beforehand. You could tell them afterwards.
So it's nothing dangerous per se, but it might be something that you don't want to reveal beforehand. You don't have to legally.
Exactly.
Okay. That sounds fair enough, and they could discriminate against you.
Yes,
So that's
there's
another
a
good
big
point.
discrimination issue.
Sarah?
Were you ever scared, like, you said that you would just zone out, be in your own world, you couldn't really talk, and, like, once you come out of the seizure, and once it finally stopped, would you ever, like, have, like, a moment where you just, like, panicked or freaked out? Like, personally, I don't know, like, if I could go into that moment and then come back out and just be completely okay and act like, everything's fine.
I'm not exactly so sure. In the moment afterwards, usually it's just like, that was really annoying more than anything. I think it's harder for other people. It's harder for my family more than anyone seeing it from the outside. For me, it's just tiring.
And Tara, I think you said to us, for instance, if you were having an episode, it could be as little as like 15 seconds or so that you know it. And like I said, if I'm talking to you, I might just think, gee, you're bored or you're looking at your cell phone or something. But the only after effect to you is you feel a little exhausted or tired.
Yeah.
But me talking to you, other than thinking, oh, she's not interested in talking about baseball or football or something, I probably wouldn't even know it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So very likely. And what does an episode last, like 30 seconds?
Yeah, typically 30 seconds to a minute. That was probably the longest one.
Can it go longer to a minute for, like, other people who have the disease?
Definitely, yeah. But that's one of the things, if you were to learn about epilepsy, if someone has a grand mal seizure or any type of seizure, you should record it just to make sure after a certain time that you call ambulance or call someone to help them.
Since you've taken over the club at the University of Delaware, how many students are involved now?
We are hoping to get more students involved. I think at this moment, maybe 3 or 4. But luckily, I also have a VP with me, which she has been awesome. I've actually been away for the last semester. I've been studying abroad, which is very lucky considering my condition, which not everyone has the ability to do, to travel on their own. But we are looking for more students to join us in this coming semester.
More paper, more pens.
Yes.
Okay. And can students, do they have to have epilepsy to join?
Oh, no, totally not.
So they can just help make people aware.
They can help. The last VP and I believe treasurer, they did not have epilepsy. They were just friends of the woman who had and was the president.
You are listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Sarah Albertson, along with Bill Horan, and today we're talking about bringing awareness for epilepsy with Jericho's own Tara Silberg, a junior at the University of Delaware, who has been rewarded for her work teaching others about the condition and how they can make an impact today.
Tara, can you tell us about your experiences and some of your goals involved with epilepsy?
I guess my overall goal really would be to raise awareness about it, because there's so many different cases of it. I can't really say I hope to get rid of this or help this, etc. So my goals are to raise awareness, especially on campus, in the majority or the remaining of my time.
What is your goal for once you graduate the University of Delaware? What is the overall goal that you hope the club will do once you leave?
I hope it will continue to run, and I hope it gains momentum. And luckily, the people that are running it or helping to run it at this moment, they're younger than me. So I just want the ball to keep rolling if we can.
Tara, obviously we know that college life, any part of a college life, the major part is being very social. If you're a student, you go to classes because you have to, but the fun part is the social, going to games, dances, etc. How does epilepsy affect you there? And if so, how, that you'd want other people to be aware of?
Yeah, so the main triggers of my seizures are stress and lack of sleep. So that makes a big difference in college.
Oh, yes.
Yes, two of the best things about being in education. But really just make sure, or I have to make sure that I don't stay out until the middle of the night, or that I get enough sleep. I keep track of my work. I would say it's more of a plus than anything.
Okay, what time do you go to bed? Now, think that people are hearing this, so
yes.
Probably your family too. So what time do you get to bed in the evening?
On a weeknight, I typically get to bed at latest 11:30, midnight. Okay. Yeah, no, it's not bad at all, especially for college students.
For college students, because some of them are just getting up then and getting ready to go, so it's a different life. And did you feel through life, did you have to work a lot harder because of this, or is it just really a small burden?
I would say it's a small burden. Medication has made it a little bit more complicated, but it's just another part of me. That's really it.
If one of our listeners right now who's tuning in has epilepsy and they're in a bad position, what would be the best advice you would give them right now?
Find friends. Find people that are experiencing things similar to what you're experiencing. Talk to them. Really, a support group is something that's amazing if you can find it.
And how, as radio hosts, and you can tell us, and we can be doing this for the next, Sarah certainly for the next 30 years, as radio hosts, how can we help people and bring awareness to people?
I would say learn more yourselves, and then if you meet someone that has epilepsy, ask them questions. If somebody asks you a question kind of randomly about epilepsy, tell them what you've known, or learn more. Actually, that's the better, the most important, I would say.
I guess like anything else, educate.
Yes,
educate ourselves. And
learn what to do if someone has a seizure. You're
great to do that. Yeah. And that is, actually, you brought up a very good point. Let's say if I see someone now, I think very likely I might be talking to you. You could have a seizure and I wouldn't even know it, to be honest. And I'll admit I'm a little clueless, as Sarah will.
Which is fine.
Tell you, she'll be saying yes, more than a little. But is there anything that other person should do? Is there a way we could help the person who's having a seizure?
So myself in particular, for someone who's having complex partial seizures, there's not much you could do. But if someone's having what you may know as a grand mal seizure, and they're on the floor, they're about to have some sort of spasms, you want to lay them on their sides. You never want to put anything in their mouth, and you want to time it so you know after a certain amount of time when to call for help.
Okay, and what is that time? Because that's something I never would have thought of, certainly, all of the information you just gave me. But the time factor, what would be the dangerous time where we better, get medical professionals?
This. Really, I should. It's after, I want to say, 2-minute mark, but it also depends on the person. Yeah, but I should.
I guess to be cautious, if we see that happening while we're doing our best, we should get somebody in the medical professional world.
Well,
or
you don't want to call them automatically. Actually, you want to time it, and hopefully you're with someone that knows the person as well, that knows how long their seizures usually last. But you want to start timing it, and then after a certain amount of time, call someone.
Do you, or do other, people who have epilepsy, do you have some kind of identification or a medical bracelet that says, just in case?
I do.
Is that it? Oh, that looks like a typical jewelry.
Yeah, I just got it recently, but it says epileptic and it has my mom's number on it. But they're not always the prettiest, and I'm a little bit of a particular person, which sounds a bit spoiled now. But I just received it because I felt like it was necessary.
Oh, and again, I'm looking at it, and I would have thought that's an ID bracelet and a piece of jewelry. So I wouldn't have even thought of that. So it's certainly nothing that would be disruptive to meeting you, or if I'm in college or a friend or something. So,
do you think people should have more of those type of bracelets and more of those ID cards? Like, should the community, the epileptic community, be like, people should get this?
Yeah, I would say definitely. I think most of my friends that are in the community have them. They're more cautious than I am, given that I just got it after over 3 years after my diagnosis. But I would say it's needed. It's always better to be safe.
How about sports? Does this affect, in college, even if you're not on the heavy-duty teams, there's intramurals, they're just fun games. You go out and play frisbees, tag football, or, whatever else. Any restrictions there, any interference?
Not that I know of, or at least if I do know of it, I'm ignoring it.
You're ignoring it. That's a good way to do it. Okay.
But I always try to be cautious if it's a sport that I could get hit in the head. I ended up with a concussion just by walking into a door last year. So I don't think sports are really a big concern for me.
I think everybody today follows your advice. If you can get hit in the head, don't do it.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good college. Already you're learning a lot. See, that University of Delaware, they're doing a good job by you.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Do you think that you had to work a lot harder to achieve everything you have achieved to this day because of the condition?
Not at all. I would really say it's only helped me. It's been a benefit more than anything else.
Do you find you have to mentally do things, whether it's affirmations or just getting up in the morning and give a little rah-rah talk to stay positive? Or is this just, like someone who changes a Band-Aid once a day?
It's been a bit hard at times. I've kind of had those moments where I'm like, this is so annoying. Why do I have to have this? But most of the time, it's just like another part of me. It's just a bracelet to wear and medication to take.
So not too bad, just
Not
part of
too
life,
bad.
and you can live with it. And as you said, other than the incidents, which may be once a month, once every 2 months, and could be 30 seconds, and a few pills that you take, there's no personal pain, there's no suffering, agony, or anything else. So that's all good.
I do have to have tests occasionally, something called a EEG, which is a little bit annoying because they make you look like Frankenstein, kind of. They hook up a million things to the top of your head, and you have to have it overnight. So you're sleeping with this unit attached to you, and it's a bit messy. Mm-hmm. But other than that, there's no pain. I'm really bad with needles, so I appreciate there's no needles.
That's a very good
Do other people who are epileptic have pain? Can you actually have pain? I know you don't, but can other people experience pain?
Definitely. If you're having something like a grand mal seizure, you could end up, biting your lip, you could bang your head, you could do so many things. I'm lucky that I don't have that kind of pain.
Tara, once again, before we wrap up, tell us the group on Long Island, if people want to be more aware of epilepsy, who should they contact?
They should contact EPIC Long Island. I believe it's Extraordinary People in Care. It's a great group, not only for support groups, but for help. I believe they have therapists.
And that's EPIC, right?
EPIC Long Island.
Long Island. Tara Silberg has been our guest today. She's a junior at the University of Delaware. We want to congratulate her for winning a scholarship there and for making us all more aware of epilepsy. Tara, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm Bill Horan. I'm here with Sarah Albertson. We want to thank our audience for listening to this week's edition of My Hometown.
We'd like to get your feedback on My Hometown. Send your comments to WHPC at ncc.edu. Nassau Community College, where success starts and continues. Till next time, this is Bill St. James. And remember, there's no town like your hometown.